I saw him reaching for cereal, standing there in the Safeway on Route 89, illuminated by those brutal fluorescent lights that make everyone look half dead. My dead husband, was comparing the price of Raisin Bran to store brand. He still had that little furrow between his eyebrows when he was trying to calculate value. The same furrow I'd watched disappear beneath the funeral home's careful cosmetics 8 years ago. My sister Karen grabbed my arm. Maggie, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I had actually, or I thought I had, because Robert Dennison, dead of a heart attack in March 2017, loving husband of 32 years, father of 3, grandfather of 5, was wearing cargo shorts and a Phoenix Suns t-shirt I'd never seen before, dropping a box of cereal into a cart with somebody else's groceries. I need to sit down, I said. But to understand why seeing my husband in an Arizona supermarket turned my entire world inside out, you need to know how carefully I'd built the life that came after his death. How precisely I'd measured out the grief, the recovery, the small pleasures I'd allowed myself. How my children had held my hand through every stage of it. Robert died on a Tuesday. A heart attack at his desk at the insurance company where he'd worked for 26 years. Massive, they said. He didn't suffer, they promised. Our daughter Diane flew in from Seattle within 4 hours. Our son Marcus drove up from Phoenix, I'd remember later, Phoenix the same night. Our youngest, Tessa, was already local. Showed up at the hospital before I'd even finished signing papers. They were magnificent, my kids. They handled everything. The funeral home, the service, the casseroles, the thank you notes. When I couldn't get out of bed for a week, Diane slept in the guest room and brought me tea. When I couldn't figure out the insurance paperwork, Marcus sat with me for 3 evenings straight, helping me organize everything. When I wanted to sell the house because it felt too empty, Tessa helped me find a perfectly nice condo in a community with other active seniors. You need to protect yourself, Mom, Marcus had said, his face so serious. The life insurance, it's not a fortune, but it's yours. We're going to help you make it last. The life insurance was $400,000. After the funeral costs, the payoff of the remaining mortgage and moving expenses, I had about $285,000. Invested conservatively, Marcus explained, it would supplement my modest pension and Social Security. I'd be comfortable. Not wealthy, but comfortable. We should set up a trust, Diane suggested. Something so you can't accidentally spend it all. You know how you are with money, Mom. She'd smiled when she said it. Affectionate. Protective. I'd signed everything they put in front of me. My brilliant children with their business degrees and their financial literacy. Of course I trusted them. Karen drove me back to her house in Sedona, her hands tight on the wheel, glancing at me every few minutes like I might evaporate. Grief does strange things, she said quietly. The mind plays tricks. Someone who looks like him, maybe. It was him. My voice sounded hollow even to myself. Same scar on his left hand from when he tried to fix the lawnmower. Same way he stands with his weight on his right foot. Same reading glasses on a chain around his neck. Karen, it was him. Robert is dead, honey. You buried him. I was there. Had I, though? I tried to remember. Viewing closed casket because of the damage from the heart attack, they'd said, though now I wondered what damage a heart attack actually caused to someone's face. The service, the burial. I'd stood there on that terrible March day, Marcus's arm around my shoulders, while they lowered a casket into the ground. A casket I'd never actually seen opened. I threw up in Karen's powder room, my whole body shaking. I'm calling Diane, Karen said through the door. No. I rinsed my mouth, stared at my face in the mirror. 63 years old. I'd earned every line, every gray hair, every year of that face. I'd survived raising 3 kids, putting Robert through his night school degree, the cancer scare in '09, and 8 years of widowhood. I was not losing my mind. Don't call anyone yet. I need to think. That night, lying in Karen's guest bed, I made myself remember things I'd spent 8 years trying to forget. The call from Diane already crying, already at the hospital, though Robert's office was closer to our house than to hers. How had she gotten there so fast? Marcus, insisting we use Greenwood Funeral Home. They're the best, Mom. Trust me on this. But I'd never heard of them before. Had I even gotten a recommendation from anyone else? The cremation paperwork. No, wait, not cremation. Burial. But they'd been very firm about the closed casket. You don't want to remember him that way, Mrs. Dennison. The funeral director had been so kind, so certain. So obviously in on it? Or just following standard procedure? The life insurance check that arrived surprisingly fast. Sometimes they expedite things for widows, Marcus had said. Especially clear-cut cases like this. Massive heart attack, pronounced dead at the scene, no question about cause. The trust fund Diane had set up for my protection. Money I could access in monthly installments, enough to live on comfortably, but never the full amount. It's safer this way, she'd said. What if you got scammed? What if someone took advantage? This way, we're protecting you. Jesus Christ. They were protecting me from myself while they were stealing from me. I got up, found my laptop, and started searching. The Greenwood Funeral Home in our town had closed 6 months after Robert's service. I found an archived web page they'd specialized in discreet services for complex situations. Their online reviews were sparse and oddly vague. One from someone named Jay Morris simply said, they understood what we needed. Professional and thorough. I searched for Robert's obituary, found it in the local paper's archives. Photo from 2010. Survived by his loving wife, Margaret, and their 3 children. The service details. And then I almost missed it, a tiny note at the bottom. In lieu of flowers, donations may be made to the American Heart Association. No mention of where he was buried. I'd been there, hadn't I? Put flowers on the grave every few months for the first 3 years, then just on his birthday and our anniversary. Except, when was the last time? 2 years ago? 3? I pulled up a map, found the cemetery. Oak Grove Memorial Park. Called their office the next morning. I'm sorry, ma'am, the woman said after checking. We don't have a Robert Dennison in our records. That's impossible. I was at his burial. Let me check our other database. Sometimes names get misspelled in the transfer. No, still nothing. Are you sure of the cemetery name? I wasn't sure of anything anymore. Karen found me at her kitchen table at 3 a.m., surrounded by printouts and notes, my laptop glowing in the darkness. Maggie, the death certificate, I said. I never actually saw the original, just copies. Marcus handled everything with the county records office. Said he'd get me a certified copy, but I don't think he ever did. And the life insurance, it paid out so fast, Karen. Don't these companies investigate? Don't they verify? Karen sat down across from me. She's 4 years older than me, raised 5 kids to my 3, buried her husband for real 12 years ago. She knows grief. She also knows when something's wrong. What are you going to do? She asked. I'm going to find out if I'm crazy or if my children faked their father's death and stole $400,000 from me. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, you know what the worst part is? Either way, you lose them. She was right, of course. But I'd already lost something. The question was whether I'd lost my husband or my children or, God help me, my mind. I spent the next 3 days in Sedona becoming a detective. Or stalker, depending on your perspective. I drove past that Safeway 17 times before I finally parked and walked in. Asked the clerk at the customer service desk if she knew a regular who looked like the photo I showed her. Robert's driver's license picture from 2015, before he died. Oh, sure, she said. That's Bob. Comes in every Thursday morning, like clockwork. Real sweet guy. Always asks about my college classes. Bob. Robert had always hated being called Bob. Does he live around here? She gave me a look. I'm not supposed to give out information about customers. I slipped her $20. Not a bribe, exactly. A thank you in advance. Desert Palms Estates. she said quietly. The retirement community off Canyon Road. I've delivered groceries out there before. Desert Palms Estates turned out to be one of those aggressively cheerful 55-plus communities with a golf course and a clubhouse and painted rocks with inspirational words. I parked outside the entrance, feeling like a lunatic, like someone who needed the kind of intervention my children might stage, with concerned faces and pamphlets about grief counseling. The guard at the gate was reading a paperback. I pulled up, rolled down my window, and took a chance. Hi, I'm looking for Bob. Bob Dennison. I'm an old friend, thought I'd surprise him. ID, please? I handed over my driver's license, held my breath. If Robert had changed his name legally, this wouldn't work. If he'd, oh, you're Margaret! He talks about you sometimes. His sister, right? His sister. I was his sister now. That's right, I managed. Unit 2847. Take the second left, then third right. Can't miss it. I couldn't miss it. I wanted to miss it. I wanted to put the car in reverse, drive back to Karen's, get on a plane home, and forget I'd ever seen Robert reaching for cereal. I wanted to believe this was all a terrible mistake, a doppelganger, a coincidence so unlikely it was almost supernatural. Instead, I took the second left and the third right. Unit 2847 was a pleasant stucco townhouse with a small front yard full of those same painted rocks. There was a silver Camry in the driveway, newer than anything we'd ever owned when we were married. A bicycle leaning against the garage door. Wind chimes shaped like hummingbirds. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, shaking. Then I saw him. Robert came out the front door in golf clothes, carrying a bag of clubs. Older, yes. A little heavier around the middle, but alive. Undeniably, impossibly, outrageously alive. He loaded the clubs into the trunk of the Camry, whistling. Actually whistling. He looked happy, relaxed. Like a man enjoying his retirement in the Arizona sunshine, not like someone who'd faked his death and abandoned his wife and destroyed his family. I got out of my car. He saw me and stopped moving entirely. The color drained from his face. For a moment, I thought he might run. Then his shoulders dropped, and he just looked tired. Maggie. Hi, Robert. My voice only shook a little. Nice day for golf. He glanced around, checking for witnesses, I realized, making sure none of his neighbors were watching. We should probably talk inside. You think? His living room was decorated like a stranger lived there. Southwestern prints, leather furniture, none of the accumulated debris of a real life. It looked like a model home, or a safe house. How did you find me? He asked. Saw you in Safeway. Followed you like a crazy stalker wife? Except I'm not crazy, am I? And I'm not actually your wife anymore, probably, since you're legally dead. He poured himself a whiskey. Didn't offer me one, which seemed like an oversight given the circumstances. It wasn't supposed to go this long, he said finally. It wasn't supposed to go this long. That's what you're leading with? I thought it would be maybe 2 years. Get the insurance money, set you up comfortably, then I'd come back. Say it was all a mistake, the death certificate mix-up, some kind of administrative nightmare. We'd be set. You'd be set. The kids would have their inheritance early enough to really use it. I sat down before my legs gave out. The kids, they needed it, Maggie. Diane's business was going under. Marcus had the gambling debts, yeah. Don't look so surprised. I knew about those. Tessa's student loans were crushing her. They were our children. We made them. We owed them something. We owed them fraud? He spread his hands. It seemed like a victimless crime. The insurance companies got billions. You'd get to live comfortably without having to work. The kids would get set up for life. And he trailed off. And you what? I'd get out. There it was. The truth underneath the money, underneath the scheme. He'd wanted out. Out of our marriage, our life, our 32 years of mortgage payments and parent-teacher conferences and careful budgets. He'd wanted to be Bob, the sweet guy at Safeway with the golf clubs and the painted rocks, not Robert, who'd spent 3 decades in a job he hated, married to a woman he'd apparently grown tired of. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. The sheer absurdity of it. You faked your death for a midlife crisis? I was 57, Maggie. It wasn't midlife. It was now or never. So you chose never. For me, for us, you chose to erase everything we built and leave me thinking I was a widow while you played golf in Arizona. You got kind of 185,000. I got betrayal. I got my children, our children, lying to my face every single day for 8 years. I got sleepless nights and grief counseling and selling the house we raised them in. I got to make small talk with widows at the senior center about our dead husbands. Do you know how many casseroles I've eaten, Robert? How many people told me it would get easier? How many times Diane patted my hand and said, Dad would want you to be happy while she was stealing from me? He flinched. The kids didn't steal. They set up a trust that pays me $2,100 a month from my own money. Where's the rest, Robert? Where's the $285,000? He didn't answer, but I could see it on his face. Gone. Spent. Diane's failing business that got one more chance. Marcus's gambling debts. Tessa's loans and probably a down payment on her condo. And Robert's pleasant retirement community in Arizona, where nobody knew he used to be a dead man. I need you to leave now, he said quietly. Before someone sees you. Or what? You'll kill yourself again? Maggie, please. This doesn't have to blow up. You can still have your monthly stipend. The kids can still keep lying to me? I can still keep pretending my husband died while he lives 3 states away, calling himself Bob. What's your alternative? His face hardened. You go public. You lose everything. The insurance company will want their money back, money that's already spent. The kids could face fraud charges. You could be implicated as an accomplice. You think they'll believe you didn't know? A wife doesn't notice her husband isn't dead? You're threatening me. I'm protecting you. Like always. I stood up. My hands were remarkably steady. You know what, Robert? For 8 years, I thought the worst thing that ever happened to me was losing you. Turns out the worst thing was believing you loved me enough to actually die for real. I walked out, got in my car, and drove back to Karen's with tears streaming down my face. Not sad tears, rage tears. The kind that make your whole chest feel like it's on fire. Karen took one look at me and poured wine. He's alive, I confirmed. The kids knew. They all knew. They spent the money. And Robert threatened me, said, if I expose them, I'll lose everything and maybe face fraud charges myself. That's bullshit, Karen said immediately. You're the victim here. Am I? Or am I the idiot who signed papers without reading them? Who let her children manage her money? Who never questioned why everything happened so fast, so smoothly? You trusted your family. That's not idiocy. It's love. Well, love got me robbed and widowed and apparently not widowed, and now I don't know what to do. Karen topped off my wine. I know what you do. You call a lawyer. Tomorrow. First thing. Robert said. Robert is a con artist who faked his death and is now trying to con you into silence. Fuck Robert. Karen almost never swears. Hearing it shocked me into a laugh, my first genuine one in days. Okay, I said. Okay. Lavier. Tomorrow. But lying in bed that night, I kept thinking about what Robert had said. About the insurance company wanting their money back. About the kids facing charges. About looking like a fool or worse, like an accomplice. And I thought about something else. I had no proof. No death certificate. Marcus had the original, supposedly. No financial records of where my money had gone. Diane managed the trust. No paper trail leading to Robert's new life. Just my word that I'd seen him. Just a crazy widow who thought she'd spotted her dead husband in Arizona. They'd been so careful, so thorough. They'd had years to cover their tracks. I got up and started making notes. If I couldn't prove Robert was alive with documents I didn't have access to, maybe I could prove it another way. I had my phone. I had a camera. I had Robert's address. I spent the next morning becoming a photographer. Parked outside Unit 2847, camera ready. Got shots of Robert getting his mail, carrying in groceries, washing the Camry. Not just blurry phone photos, I'd borrowed Karen's good camera with the zoom lens. Clear, dated, GPS-stamped images of a dead man doing yard work. Then I went back to that Safeway and asked the clerk about Bob's routine. Learned he played poker every Wednesday night at the clubhouse. Had coffee every morning at the Sunrise Cafe on Main Street. Took a weekly golf lesson at the public course. I documented everything. Became a ghost haunting my husband's fake new life, gathering evidence that he'd had the audacity to exist. A week later, I flew home. Didn't tell the kids I was back. Instead, I went straight to a lawyer, not the family attorney who'd probably been in on it somehow, but a young woman named Sarah Chen, who specialized in insurance fraud and financial elder abuse. I laid out everything: the convenient death, the quick insurance payout, the trust that controlled my money, the sighting in Arizona, the photos, Robert's own admission. Sarah listened without interrupting, her face carefully neutral. "Mrs. Dennison," she said finally, "this is complex. Is it fraud or am I crazy?" "It's absolutely fraud. The question is whether we can prove it in a way that protects you and recovers your money without criminal charges landing on you." I didn't know. Proving what you didn't know 8 years ago is going to be challenging, but the fact that you came forward immediately after discovering the truth, that helps. The documentation you gathered, that helps. We can work with this. She outlined a strategy. Approach the insurance company directly, present the evidence, cooperate fully with their investigation. Let them go after Robert and the kids for the fraud. Push for a settlement that repaid me what was stolen without pressing criminal charges against my children or me. They might not go for it, Sarah warned. Insurance companies usually want prosecution, and your children will probably argue you were complicit. I have documentation of every conversation since I discovered the truth. Karen's witnessed everything. I have Robert's own admission on a voice memo. I'd recorded our conversation in his living room. Illegal in some states, but Arizona is one-party consent. Can they really claim I was in on it when I spent 8 years genuinely believing he was dead? Sarah smiled. Let's find out. The call to the insurance company's fraud division happened 3 days later. Sarah and I sat in her office on speakerphone while I told the story to a man named David Pritchard, who'd probably heard every con in the book but sounded genuinely surprised by this one. You have photos? Dated, GPS, stamped, multiple occasions over 2 weeks. Plus testimony from neighbors and shop clerks who know him as Bob Dennison. Plus a voice recording of him admitting to the fraud. Jesus, David said quietly. And your children? Set up the trust that's been controlling my access to the insurance money. I can provide bank records showing where the payments went. My lawyer can walk you through everything. There was a long pause. Mrs. Dennison, are you aware this could result in criminal charges against your children? I'm aware. I'm also aware they committed fraud and stole from me for 8 years while I grieved a man who was playing golf in Arizona. Fair enough. We'll need everything you have. And Mrs. Dennison, don't contact your family until we say otherwise. This is now a federal investigation. I hung up and burst into tears. Sarah handed me tissues and waited. I just turned in my children, I said. You reported a crime that was committed against you. They're my babies. I raised them. I taught Diane to read and helped Marcus with his science projects and sat through every one of Tessa's terrible cello recitals. And now they're going to be investigated by insurance fraud detectives because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. Or, Sarah said gently, they're going to be investigated because they committed insurance fraud. Your silence wouldn't make the crime go away, Maggie. It would just mean they got away with it. She was right. But knowing she was right didn't make it hurt less. The insurance company moved fast. Within 2 weeks, federal agents had interviewed Robert in Arizona, seized financial records from all three kids, and frozen the trust accounts. The kids started calling immediately. I let it go to voicemail. Diane crying, "Mom, what did you do?" The FBI is at my house. They're talking about wire fraud and conspiracy. Please call me. Please. Marcus angry. This is insane. You're destroying the family over what, a mistake? Dad was desperate. We were trying to help you, and now you've just called me back. We can fix this. Tessa, coldest of all, I hope you're happy. I hope whatever revenge fantasy you're living was worth it. We were protecting you from yourself, and this is how you repay us? Protecting me from myself. That phrase again. Sarah advised me not to respond. Anything you say can complicate the investigation. Let the evidence speak. The evidence spoke volumes. The insurance company's forensic accountants tracked every dollar. Diane's business had received $85,000 in consulting fees from a shell company funded by the trust. Marcus had made regular payments to various casinos and loan sharks totaling $72,000. Tessa had paid off $56,000 in student loans and bought a condo with a $45,000 down payment. Legal fees, living expenses, and Robert's Arizona setup ate the rest. Every penny of my $285,000 gone. The death certificate turned out to be real, sort of. Filed with the county by a doctor who'd lost his license 3 years later for unrelated fraud. The funeral home had been a front operation that closed when its owners skipped town. The whole thing had been professional, coordinated, and probably not their first rodeo. The good news, Sarah told me 6 weeks after I'd made the call, is that the insurance company believes you were genuinely defrauded. The evidence shows you had no knowledge of the scheme prior to the Arizona sighting, and your immediate reporting demonstrated good faith. And the bad news? The company wants the full amount returned, plus penalties and interest. We're negotiating. And your children are facing federal charges. Can we make a deal? I'll cooperate fully if they go easier on the kids. Sarah looked at me for a long moment. These people stole from you for 8 years, Maggie. They're not children anymore. They're adults who made criminal choices. They're still my children. Then you're a better person than me. The final settlement took 4 months. The insurance company agreed to pursue full criminal prosecution of Robert, but recommended reduced charges for Diane, Marcus, and Tessa in exchange for full cooperation and repayment plans. They'd each serve probation, pay restitution, and live with felony fraud convictions. I signed off on the deal, even though Sarah advised against it. You could push for full prosecution, she said. The evidence is there. And then what? I get my money back and never speak to my children again? They go to actual prison while I live comfortably on my restitution payments? Some people would call that justice. Some people don't have to live with it. Robert's case was different. He got 18 months in federal prison, full restitution responsibility, and a lifetime ban from holding any kind of insurance policy. I didn't attend his sentencing. Didn't care to see him led away in handcuffs. Didn't need that particular closure. What I needed was an answer to the question that had been eating at me since that day in the Safeway. Why hadn't I known? Diane finally agreed to meet me for coffee 8 months after everything exploded. She looked older, thinner, exhausted. The FBI investigation, the legal fees, the public humiliation, it had cost her more than money. I'm sorry, she said immediately. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know. I'm so sorry. Why did you do it? She stirred her coffee for a long time. Dad made it sound so simple. A way to help everyone. He said you'd never have to know, that we'd take care of everything, that it was basically victimless. And I was desperate, Mom. The business was failing, and I had employees depending on me, and I needed it to work so badly that I didn't let myself think about what it meant we were doing to you. For 8 years, the first year was the hardest. After that, it just became normal. We'd convinced ourselves you were better off not knowing, that the money you were getting was generous. that we were protecting you from the stress of managing a large sum. She finally looked at me. We told ourselves a lot of lies. About you, about Dad, about ourselves. Did it ever occur to you that I deserve the truth? Every day. And every day I chose to believe the lie was kinder. She wiped her eyes. I know you can't forgive me. I wouldn't forgive me. But I need you to know I loved you the whole time. Even while I was stealing from you, I loved you. That's the part I can't understand. How you loved me and did this anyway? Because love isn't enough, I guess. It should be, but it's not. We sat in silence for a while. Then Diane said, Tessa won't speak to you. She's decided you're the villain in all this. That you destroyed the family. I destroyed the family? She needs to believe that. The alternative is accepting what she did. And Tessa's not there yet. Maybe she'll never be. And Marcus? Ashamed. So ashamed he can barely function. He wanted to come today, but I told him to wait. Let me test the waters first. She gave me a weak smile. Are the waters tested? I don't know what we are to each other anymore, Diane. You're my daughter, and I love you. And you helped steal $285,000 from me while I mourned a man who wasn't dead. How do we come back from that? I don't know if we can, but I'd like to try. It's been 3 years since that coffee. Diane and I have dinner once a month, awkward and careful, rebuilding something that might never look like it used to. Marcus sends emails, long, rambling apologies and updates about his therapy and his new job. He's paid back $8,000 so far. At his current rate, he'll finish restitution when he's 73. Tessa sent me one letter a year ago. It said, you should have let it go. We were family. That was supposed to mean something. I haven't responded. Don't know if I will. Robert got out of prison last month. I heard through Diane that he's living with his sister in Oregon, working at a hardware store, trying to rebuild. We're officially divorced now, had to be. For the settlement, turns out you can divorce a dead man if he's not actually dead. The money came back slowly. The insurance company recovered about $190,000 between seized assets and the kids' initial payments. The rest will come through the restitution plan, assuming everyone stays employed and healthy and alive long enough. I'll probably get it all back when I'm 80. I don't need it, though. Turns out I'm pretty good at managing my own finances when I'm actually allowed to access them. I've got a part-time job at the library, a small apartment I love, and a weekly poker game with women who think my story is either the most dramatic thing they've ever heard or the most entertaining, depending on their mood. Karen still calls every Sunday. How's the woman who caught her dead husband buying cereal? She'll say, and I'll laugh because if I don't laugh, I'll scream. People ask if I regret reporting it. If I wish I'd just walked away from that Safeway, driven back to the airport and lived the rest of my life not knowing. Honestly, some days, yes. Some days I think ignorance was a strange kind of bliss, and truth is just pain wearing a noble disguise. But most days I remember something Sarah said during those early meetings. You can't unknow the truth. You can only decide what to do with it. I chose to do something. To refuse the comfortable lie. To insist that I deserved better than being managed and manipulated by people who claimed to love me. Was it worth losing Tessa, maybe forever? Worth the look on Diane's face when the FBI showed up? Worth knowing that Marcus wakes up every day carrying shame he might never shed? I don't know. I honestly don't know. What I do know is this. I'm 66 years old. I've been married, widowed, and unwidowed. I've been robbed by my children and threatened by my not-dead husband. I've worn a wire for insurance investigators and learned how to tail someone without being spotted. I've rebuilt my life from scratch 3 times now, and this latest version, it's mine. Finally, completely mine. Not the trust fund version where my children decided what I needed. Not the widow version where I performed grief for a man who was eating Raisin Bran in Arizona. Not the managed version where everyone protected me from my own supposed incompetence. This version, where I know the truth and live with the consequences and make my own terrible, beautiful, absolutely mine decisions, that's worth something. maybe not everything, but something. And if you're out there living some version of your life that someone else designed for you, some role they needed you to play, some story they needed you to believe, I just want you to know the truth is going to hurt. It's going to cost you things you thought you couldn't live without. But on the other side of that pain, there's a version of yourself you might not have met yet. The one who knows what really happened and chose to live anyway. She's worth meeting. Y promise.